Christian reality. Tonight we're going to talk about, it's sort of a continuance of the previous video where we explored the themes of postmodernism and basic human principles. So, what I was basically saying before we jump into the theme of this video was that postmodernism was a philosophy that affected art and culture, and unfortunately the educational system in the United States and in Europe as well, and I would imagine in Canada as well. And this occurred after World War II, as I previously mentioned. And postmodernism is like a divorce from absolutes, okay? It's like this turning away or rebellion from clearly universally accepted truths, okay, prior to that point. And these truths were based upon biblical concepts of right and wrong, of actions that are honoring to God and man, to your fellow human being. So after we left modernism, okay, and went into postmodernism after World War II, that set of beliefs hit our school system. And in the previous video, I was talking about how our educational system needs to be uprooted and rebuilt. And I believe that's the case throughout the West, throughout the Western world. So what we have been, permeated with here and abroad is relativism. In other words, my truth is my truth, and what I think is law and absolute because it's what I think, separate from any previously, proven foundational truth as it exists in, say, the Bible or historical fact, you know. And so you can just look around at the decline, you know, in a lot of places in our culture, and you can see, the all the nuances and imagery of relativism. Okay, it's a very kind of lowering of the standards when it comes to fidelity in relationships, fidelity to the family unit, staying married, staying close to your children, raising them in a God-fearing way, you know. Basically just moral uprightness, I guess you could just chalk it up to. Moral uprightness has sort of flown out the window after World War II in terms of like what started coming into our culture, our media, our education. And so those ideas are an enemy to the US. It's an enemy to your own growth as a person. When you fill your life with compromise, then what do you stand for exactly? Do you see what I'm saying? So if we want to be strong Americans and we want to be strong-minded and we want to have strong families and strong lives, then we cannot look outward for those determining agents, okay? We cannot look at an eroding kind of culture that sends every other kind of strange message out, like the example of laughing and dancing and celebrating the murder of Charlie Kirk. Okay, that is going on in the culture. If you were to follow that and just accept that as being appropriate, then you have left behind, the established truth that human life is precious. Okay? That this was not a person who deserved to be murdered. Okay? He was not a murderer himself. He did not say that murder is good or that we should murder. In fact, that's what some on the left are saying. Okay, but even if they were to say that, they would not deserve to be murdered for that. I mean, that is a thought that they're having and they're articulating it, and we see consequences, firings, and so on. But not to review too much of the previous video, but you know, Charlie Kirk should never have been murdered for his beliefs, especially if you take a look at what his beliefs are about. You know, his beliefs are not of the postmodern age. They are biblically founded and generally accepted the world over because they are common sense principles, and we discussed that as well. Okay, the common sense, or what I called human principles, I did look it up, and they're often called human principles or human rights principles. Here are a few of them. Fairness, respect. Okay, was it respectful to murder a man for just going to college campuses and, you know, talking about common sense things? Autonomy, the ability to be independent and to self-rule. And we talked about that on the other video. Equality, you know, that you as a person are equal to anybody else on the planet. Okay, you as a person who maybe does a job that's considered menial, you have just as much value as the King of England. Okay, and maybe more so at the moment, since he doesn't seem to be doing a whole lot for his country. But we are glad that he took some taxpayer money of the people of England and is working on veteran housing. So that is good, because there are so many homeless veterans in England. So I'm glad to see that King Charles is working on that to some degree. That is good. Okay, another one, dignity. See, so violations of these things on a person, stripping away their dignity, like we talked about before, people not being able to get a home, an apartment, a townhome, any kind of thing of their own, owning property, not being able to own property strips a person of their dignity. You know, if they so desire to have their own and they can't, that's a problem. Okay, so I just wanted to clarify and expand upon those terms. Those terms were correct that we used last time. And so let's go forward. I want to address what's going on in England right now. For those of you who just maybe are not aware, earlier this year, there were 3 little girls, all under the age, they were between 6 and 9 years old, and they were brutally murdered during, or I think right after a dance class, okay, in England. And when that happened, UK really protested. There were just eruptions on the streets. The people of England were in an uproar, and the reason why is because for many years, I think going 20 years now, many little girls of working class families, as were these 3 little girls, have been systematically procured for gang rape. Many of the perpetrators are Pakistani immigrants, but some are believed to be in Great Britain's government. And there are many articles about a conspiracy involving the police stations and departments of various communities, towns in England, mayors, all the way up to Prime Minister Keir Starmer. Keir Starmer is the current Prime Minister of England. And during this time frame, Keir Starmer was deeply immersed in governing structures at that time that could have been intervening for justice. And justice was shut down. and Keir Starmer was smack dab in the middle of it. Now, many people have protested these rape gangs. This is going on right now in England, and they were shut down. This year, there were hundreds of arrests of English people who were putting their opinions out on social media regarding this mass cover-up in England of little girls being gang raped, abducted, gang raped, murdered. Some are alive, right? You know, and when the ones who were rescued and alive, when their parents brought them to police stations and made formal complaints and wanted cases opened, they were summarily turned down. They were told that their children would not make good witnesses. But as the truth becomes more and more uncovered, many of these parents were told that the municipality officials in that town where the case was brought up did not want to go against the Muslim population in the town because they were afraid. That is the bottom line. They were afraid of being called racist. In other words, the actual phrases that were used in some of these cases were that because community relations were so paramount with this voting bloc, they could not pursue the cases of these childhood rapes. I don't know if this is going to get flagged on YouTube. Okay? So this is consequently brought upon wave after wave after wave of working class populations. The indigenous native English people have come out in droves, you guys, to say that we are being denied justice, and illegal immigrants of the Muslim faith, be they Afghani, Pakistani, Sudanese, many of these people have risen in their professional ranks to be high up positions in the CPS departments of these towns in England, okay, Children Protective Services. The actual, in some cases, perpetrators were protected by Muslims who held positions in CPS, okay, who were hiding and perhaps even coordinating these other Muslim men who made up these rape gangs. Okay, so what's going on right now in England is there is a third political party called the Reform Party. And the Reform Party would be like, here we have America First. Okay, the Reform Party would be England First. So they are conservatives, okay? And they are indeed making a mighty splash. They want to gain power and are in fact gaining power in Parliament. Instead of being on the outside fringe, they are gaining seats. I believe they gained 6 parliamentary seats this summer, in May of this year. The head of that party is a man named Peter Farage. And Peter Farage and another English woman were the heads of the Brexit party. They are the ones that helped England remove itself from the EU, which was definitely a good move, okay? But they should have stayed in power in order to fully extricate England from the detrimental, poisonous policies of the EU. And I am talking about the mass illegal migration of Muslims from all over the third world, introducing them into these Western Christian-based cultures I mean, one could definitely argue that England is not really Christian anymore. They've become very postmodern, very much steeped in relativism, and they have fallen. I mean, they have fallen from their previous heights. So their country is seeing what is happening when illegal migrants are being given the vote. The illegal migrant population's vote drowns out and makes small the indigenous native English vote. And that is what these people in power are afraid of. They are afraid of the power of this Muslim illegal immigrant vote. They are courting that vote. So they don't want the parents of these violated babies to create a big uproar and expose what is deemed okay by these Muslim rapists. Okay, because if you come back to the Quran, does it not state clearly that their prophet Muhammad had a 9-year-old wife? I believe she was 9. And we know that the law in Iraq states that men can take wives at 9. Men can take wives, sexual penetration of a child at 9. Okay? Think about that culture being introduced into England or here. Okay? It's being introduced into Ireland, into Scotland. The problems are high and mighty in these countries. Sweden has a huge increase in rape from that community. This is why the country of Poland has this many illegal migrants. They have completely mobilized their military to closely police their borders because they have got mass aliens, foreigners. They've got mass people right on the other side of their fences and their gates. And so they've got the military employed to police that border. Helicopters, drones, cameras, they are doing it. They are keeping their people safe from an influx of illegal migration. And Hungary is another very strong country. And who criticizes these countries for keeping their populations safe from all the woes and problems that Ireland, Sweden, England, France, that those countries are having? The EU. The EU criticizes Poland and Hungary for saying, no, we do not accept any immigrants. It is their right to not accept immigrants, just as if the people okay it in a country, if the people okay it, and a country wants to take in so many, like we have always accepted immigrants in our country. We are, we've always been welcoming to immigrants, but we put a cap on it. Was it 1 million a year? I believe has always been the cap. Correct me if I'm wrong on that. But, a country cannot control something that is just outrageous and out of control, like the numbers that we took on during the Biden years, they say, is anywhere between 10 and 20 million. So, as opposed to 4 million. Okay, so you have to know who is coming into your country. You don't let a person off the street walk into your house, especially if you have children in your home. You're going to let a stranger walk into your house? Lay down on your couch, put their feet up? You're not going to do that. And it's the same thing for a country. If they have any practical wisdom, they're not going to allow unknown people to come in. This is simply common and basic sense. Remember autonomy. Remember safety. These are basic human principles. So I just want to encourage you guys to learn and think. That's what we talked about last time. Learn and think. Look up Reform Party in England. These reform parties that say, England first, or here, America First. These are popping up throughout Europe, and even in Canada. And this is a blessing, you guys. We want to, those of you who are faith people, and you pray to God, I really want to encourage you to pray that these movements will gain standing and spread in every nation, in every nation, every nation. So, I believe that nation states should stand independent. Yes, they can, form trade treaties that can be revisited when they stop working for one or more parties. Okay, you revisit it. Um, you might have coalitions to assist with safety and that type of thing. But every country should be able to make their own decisions and stand on their own. Every country should have its own national defense. Every country should work on having the correct, truth-based, not postmodern relativism, but truth-based education, so that it can honestly, it can thrive. Instead of going downhill and backwards, it can thrive and do well. Um, so I am praying for England right now. My thoughts and prayers go out to the people of England and to the Reform Party of England. Not the establishment Tory party, which used to be thought of as like Republican, but they have become completely watered down and have really become establishment, which means that they have sort of joined with the Labour Party. Here we would call it the Liberal Party or the Democrat Party. In England, it's called the Labour Party. Well, the Labour Party has abandoned the laborers, just like the Democrat Party has abandoned the working American. And that is why the working American has, in increasing numbers, abandoned the Democrat Party, because it doesn't stand up for them anymore. The Democrat Party now represents millionaires and billionaires, special interests, and the interest is corporate money. The interest is control over the wages of the worker. And that is what the Democrat Party has become. That's just one of the things that the Democrat Party has become attached to, along with very many other unsavory, anti-American, anti-freedom, anti-wholesome ideals, if you can call them ideals, But let's be praying for reform parties to thrive throughout the West. Okay, you guys. So again, as we shut down this video, the theme here again is who are our enemies. And in this case, it's not just the U.S. enemy, which I usually is what these videos pertain to, but tonight it is including England, as a part of the West that we are, of course, a part of. And the enemy is corruption. Corruption, because the powers that be have been allowing the rape of children. It's unbelievable. And hiding it up, in fact, to cater to illegal migrants, to cater to a Muslim population that doesn't even believe in the values and laws that, are part of England's history. Okay? Okay, because many Muslims adhere to Sharia law, and we'll do a video on that, and that is not what the Judeo-Christian beliefs that are the underpinnings of these democracies and republics in the Western world is based on. So, the enemy is catering to Muslims, catering to Sharia law, hiding the rape of children, all of that. Okay? That was hidden by the Labour Party and maybe some in the establishment group of the Tories. So it was hidden. Okay? That's an enemy. corruption, hurting children. That is an enemy. It has caused such an uproar. We recently, a few days ago, had a huge march in London, and there were close to 3 million people marching. Many of them weren't even English. I mean, they were coming from everywhere. They were coming from Hungary. They were coming from Ireland, Scotland, all parts of England. These were citizens of the UK and beyond, just outraged at the lack of patriotism in the current government. The government of England, the Parliament, the MPs, which would be like our congressional representatives, um, their legislature is ignoring the indigenous people, their rights, their safety. They are overly taxed and they are undercared for by their government. And so that is an enemy. That's an enemy to that country. That kind of thing here is an enemy to our safety and freedom in the U.S. Okay, guys, have a good one. And until the next, think smart and act accordingly. And then learn and think. Definitely spread this video out, share it, create your own videos, do your research, and let's get the word out to as many people as we can about what are the dangers to the freedoms and safety of the people in the West. Take care.